He handed me divorce papers in front of the cake. No happy birthday. No handshake. No eye contact. Just that fat beige envelope clutched in his liver-spotted fingers like it was a goddamn gift. 40 years old to the day, and my father-in-law was grinning like he'd just won a game he wasn't even supposed to be playing. Behind him, the house buzzed with fake cheer. Balloons, a lukewarm buffet, a handful of her friends from work pretending they didn't know what was about to happen. I stepped through the doorway and instantly smelled deceit. That thick, over-perfumed air that doesn't belong in a home, just in funeral parlors and hospital waiting rooms. And there she was, my wife, sitting on the arm of the couch with her phone held up like a Gen Z documentarian, smiling too wide, like this was all some hilarious social experiment. "Babe, don't look so serious," she said, tilting the camera. "It's just a joke, right? A joke." Just her dad tossing legal documents into my lap while her new boyfriend, yes, the one I helped her mentor last year when he couldn't get a job, lingered smugly in the corner like a stand-in groom. He lifted a red Solo cup to me and smirked. Toast to the dethroned king. I opened the envelope, glanced at the top sheet. No surprise. Divorce. Pre-filled. Sign here, here, and here. Her signature was already in place, neat and emotionless. Dated 3 days ago, which meant they timed this, planned it, filmed it. A trap masquerading as a birthday. People were watching. One of her coworkers, I think her name was Tanya, laughed a little too loudly, then glanced at me and looked away, embarrassed. My brother-in-law gave me a pitying shrug like he couldn't believe I was dumb enough to show up. I took the pen they'd thoughtfully clipped to the packet. Signed. No snark. No outburst. Just ink on paper, and the smallest nod as I handed the pages back to her dad, who looked momentarily disappointed that I hadn't made a scene. Her voice was chipper. "Wow, that was fast. Guess we both wanted it." I didn't reply. I just walked through that living room, past the appetizers, past the guy she used to call our weed dealer friend, who was now apparently invited to family events, past the cake with my name on it and the 40 candles already lit. I walked through the back sliding doors and out into the night without touching a single plate, saying a single word, or even looking at her. Because when someone hands you a grenade and calls it a joke, the real punchline is watching them forget you already pulled the pin. More than 97% of people who follow these stories never hit subscribe. But if you're still here, if you're reading this and something about it cuts a little too close to home, maybe it's worth supporting the team that brings it to life. You know, for the next twist. Back to the story. I didn't go back for the car. Didn't call anyone. Didn't even check into a hotel. I just vanished. Because that birthday party wasn't my humiliation. It was my green light. She thought she was ambushing a dull, predictable man. But the real surprise? I've been waiting years for that moment. I didn't just leave the party that night. I left the entire version of myself they thought they knew. No dramatic exit. No symbolic burning of wedding photos. Just quiet precision. Within 24 hours, my number was disconnected. The joint bank cards were deactivated. Insurance, utilities, lease all quietly rerouted, renamed, or closed. By the time she woke up the next morning to post her birthday divorce prank video, I was already gone in every sense that mattered. She uploaded the clip with a laughing emoji caption. My ex took it like a champ. Her followers ate it up. Hundreds of comments cheering her freedom. One said, "Queen energy." Another, "He looked dead inside, OL." She loved that one. Pinned it even. Meanwhile, the system I'd built began its work. 3 years of slow, careful positioning, changing account structures, filing quiet transfers, re-registering my consulting firm under a holding name no one ever paid attention to. Every boring Saturday morning I'd spent at my desk while she rolled her eyes and called me an obsessive accountant. Those were the mornings I was building the foundation for this. She didn't even notice that the joint account password had changed last year. She never logged in. Why would she? She just swiped cards and assumed the machine would keep spitting out cash. When the text alert came from her bank, joint savings balance, $0. She probably thought it was a glitch. She called the bank, of course. They told her the transfer was authorized. Her signature was already on file. Funny thing about digital signatures, you can automate them for routine monthly withdrawals. And if you time it right, routine can become permanent. By day 3, she'd posted another story. "Can you believe some men can't handle being dumped?" she said into the camera, half laughing. But her voice cracked near the end. You could hear it. I did. I watched from a motel an hour away, where the walls smelled like detergent and the air conditioner rattled like an old man's cough. I sat there, coffee in hand, watching her perform confusion disguised as confidence. The comments shifted tone. Wait, did he actually disappear? Girl, you good. This doesn't seem funny anymore. Her father tried to reassure her, loudly, arrogantly. He's nothing without us, he told a neighbor over drinks. Mark my words, he'll crawl back. He didn't realize his credit card payments had been linked through a shared business vendor account. One eye closed that same night. When his statement arrived, he'd see his own arrogance cost him a few thousand, too. Collateral education. I didn't reach out to anyone. Not my coworkers, not her friends, not even my brother. The truth was simpler. When a man plans his own vanishing, the hardest part isn't logistics. It's silence. You have to resist the urge to correct the story, to explain your side. Let them fill in the blanks. Let them guess whether you broke or evolved. By the end of the week, I didn't exist in her world anymore. The utilities were now under her name, without my automatic payments attached. The rent? No more shared account. Her car loan? Flagged for review since her listed cosigner could not be verified. She told people I was unstable. Maybe I was, but instability doesn't file 3 years' worth of transfer paperwork in advance. It doesn't register new LLCs or restructure equity holdings to funnel through an anonymous trust. No, this wasn't madness. It was math. While she posted selfies captioned, "Single and thriving," I watched her thrive her way straight into a quiet, invisible vacuum. Because freedom without a foundation isn't liberation. It's free fall. And she was just beginning to feel the drop. At first, she wore the whole thing like a badge. Divorced on his birthday, no drama, just vibes. Her friends ate it up. They threw her a little follow-up brunch 3 days later. Mimosas, half-hearted toasts, and all the same questions masked as gossip. Wait, so, he didn't say anything? Like, not even a little rage meltdown? She smiled, all fake zen. Nope, just signed and walked out. Like a ghost. Another friend, one of those chronically single types who prides herself on spotting red flags, leaned in. You sure he's not, like, plotting something? She laughed. Too hard, too loud. He's not that smart. But the laughs didn't echo like they used to. Even her father, who normally barked with performative confidence, just muttered, "He's nothing without us," before retreating into a bitter sip of whatever brown liquor he'd adopted since retiring. The shift started subtle. A declined card at the salon. The machine blinked red once, then again. She blamed it on the network. Tried another card. That one worked barely. But when she logged into the banking app, the credit line looked thinner. Lighter, like something had been peeled off in the night. Then the leasing office called. Not a courtesy call. Not a "your rent's due." A renewal denial. Due to asset verification discrepancies? The agent said on speakerphone, "We can't extend the current terms on your lease. You may apply as a sole tenant, pending review." What discrepancies? She snapped. Well, the woman said carefully, your previous lease renewal listed joint asset backing, specifically equity from a business trust and home appraisal rollover. Both are no longer active. She hung up. Panic, of course, looks different when it first hits someone used to control. She didn't call me. She called her lawyer, the same one who helped coordinate the divorce. Mr. Brennan, middle-aged, always smelled like printer toner and breath mints. She marched into his office, demanded answers. He didn't even look surprised. Well, technically, he said, flipping open a manila folder. You already signed over several asset rights during previous refinance filings. What filings? She snapped. Brennan adjusted his glasses, tapped the folder. These. Inside were scans, pages she recognized only vaguely. All dated months or even a year back. All signed. Her own loops and swirls in black ink. One was from when I told her we needed to restructure the business for tax efficiency. Another was labeled home equity consolidation, from the time I said we should simplify the mortgage to keep her name clean in case of audits. It wasn't in the divorce agreement, she said, voice rising. It didn't need to be, he replied, like a man who didn't want to be part of this conversation any more than necessary. Divorce papers can only divide what's currently held. You'd already signed these assets away well before the filing. But I didn't understand. He cut her off gently. You signed. You didn't ask. That's not the same as being tricked. She stared at the pages like they were written in another language, which honestly they may as well have been. What does this mean? She asked, her voice smaller now. "It means," he said, closing the folder slowly, "what you assumed was yours wasn't." And just like that, the smugness cracked. The woman who filmed my divorce for TikTok clout was now staring down legal documents she once waved off with a manicure flick. The man she thought she'd humiliated in front of her friends had been quietly, methodically rewriting the foundation of her lifestyle while she was too busy pretending to be the main character. She thought the signing had ended the marriage. She never realized it was the final step of a chess match she didn't even know she was playing. She used to joke that I couldn't handle change, that I'd wear the same shoes until the soles fell off, eat the same lunch for a year, never deviate. "You're allergic to momentum," she'd laugh. "If it weren't for me, you'd still be using a flip phone." Now, standing in the middle of her half-furnished apartment with a dead number in her hand and a lawyer who kept repeating, "You signed it? It's binding." She suddenly decided she needed that momentum back. She called my old number first. Straight to voicemail, well, not even voicemail. Just a cold, immediate cutoff. Disconnected. Not blocked. Gone. Like the line never existed. She tried WhatsApp, Signal, Messenger, nothing. Not even the ghost of a profile pic. It wasn't that I was ignoring her. I deleted the trail entirely. Next was my employer. The firm I'd worked at for 8 years, where she once sent cupcakes during quarterly closings to remind them he's married, ladies. "Hi, was his wife," she told the receptionist. "Can I speak with him?" Pause. Some keyboard clicks. "Oh, he's no longer with us," the voice finally said. "He resigned. Let me check. Oh, 6 months ago." "6 months?" she repeated, stunned. "Are you sure?" "Yes, ma'am. We had a farewell in March." That part was true. There was a farewell. But it wasn't a sad email with cupcakes and goodbyes. It was a silent extraction. I'd handed in my resignation on a Friday, cleaned out my things by Monday, and rerouted every final paycheck into a new business account under a shell entity. She tried calling my sister next. They'd been friendly once, brunches, weddings, that fake intimacy social media makes so easy. But now, straight to voicemail. And the message was new. Short. Generic. "You've reached this number. Leave a message. I'll call if it's important." She didn't call again. In desperation, she turned to the one place she assumed I'd forgotten. Our old shared cloud folder. The digital junk drawer we used to store receipts, travel documents, tax returns, and those cringy anniversary videos she made me film every year. She logged in. Empty. Every folder cleared. Every spreadsheet gone. The vacation albums? Deleted. The tax forms? Archived and removed. Even the password list gone. But there was one file. One single image left behind. A photo. I was standing at a podium, confident, sharp. Not the man who used to quietly refill the dishwasher while she scrolled Instagram and complained about her coworkers. Not the one who used to apologize for getting home late from work after covering for her spending habits. This version wore a custom-tailored charcoal suit, clean shave, subtle tie. The backdrop behind me was sleek, black and silver, with a logo she didn't recognize. Meridian Ventures. Beneath it, bold white letters, New Director of Operations Martin F. Wells. Her thumb hovered over the screen. She zoomed in like clarity would somehow make it make sense. But what rattled her more than the logo, more than the title, was the expression. I was smiling. Not the soft, careful smile I used to wear around her family. Not the smile I gave her when she won arguments I didn't have the energy for. This one was genuine, relaxed, certain. She Googled the company name. Meridian Ventures. It had a website, slick, modern. Headquarters listed downtown. Defense contracts. Logistics innovation. A list of partners that made her jaw tighten. Homeland Security, FAA, private security conglomerates. Real money. Quiet money. And there I was, right on the homepage. Executive team. Fourth tile from the left. Not buried. Celebrated. She sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the screen as if it would explain everything. But it didn't. It only offered one terrifying, crystal-clear realization. I hadn't disappeared. I'd been becoming. And she never saw it. Because she never looked. She showed up at Brennan's office for the second time in a week. This time without the blow-dried hair and rehearsed calm. Her makeup was still perfect because appearances always came first. But her eyes had that panic twitch she used to mock in other women. The ones who let men mess with their heads. Now she was that woman. And Brennan, who had once chuckled at her divorce jokes, suddenly looked like he regretted taking her call. "I need you to check everything," she snapped. Everything with my name on it that he touched. I want to know what the hell is going on. He didn't argue. Just opened his laptop and pulled up a folder she didn't know existed. Property filings, MFW Martin F. Wells. She flinched when she saw the initials, like she'd seen them carved on a tombstone. This is all public record, he said, almost apologetic. I didn't look into it earlier because, frankly, you didn't ask. He clicked through PDFs and forms. Recorded deeds, title adjustments, transfer of interest agreements, signature logs. This one's from 2.5 years ago, he murmured, flipping a document toward her. She scanned it, confused. Her name was there. Her signature, too. So was a little clause in bold. Transference of majority interest in primary residence to individual party for refinancing purposes. I don't understand. This was when he said we were just consolidating paperwork for the tax audit. Brennan didn't blink. It wasn't just that. You signed over the majority share of the property. He's the listed primary on the deed. She pushed it away. No, that's not. I would have remembered. There's more, he said, pulling out another file. This was when he shifted the business ownership structure. You signed the dissolution of the original LLC and the creation of a holding company in Delaware. He said that was just to make things cleaner on paper. We weren't even making money at that point. Doesn't matter, Brennan said. The new structure classified the business as a private consultancy and moved all intellectual property and vendor rights into the new entity. You signed off as a non-managing member. She leaned back, color draining from her face. Another file, her car. The luxury SUV she insisted they get even when their joint savings started thinning. She remembered the dealership. How annoyed she was that he made her wait while he handled the paperwork. He leveraged it, Brennan said, as collateral, through the old business before it dissolved. Technically, the title was never transferred back to your name. It belongs to a company that no longer exists. He liquidated its assets last month. She blinked. I drove that car yesterday, she whispered. He gave a tight smile. You won't be driving it much longer. The lien's been called. And without an active business to back it. She stood up suddenly, like her legs were reacting before her brain. I didn't know what I was signing. He told me it was routine. He used to handle all that crap. I know, Brennan said gently. That was the point. She stared down at the papers like they were written in a foreign language. Years of dismissing my routines. Rolling her eyes when I asked her to review a form. Saying things like, you're good with that stuff, I trust you. Laughing about how I was built for paperwork. And now, every line she didn't read had become a nail in the coffin of her lifestyle. Every signature she gave without looking had become a permission slip to vanish her comfort. She'd played the part of the clever woman holding the leash to a boring man. But all along I wasn't on the leash. I was tightening it. She arrived at the office in a rage, not a plan. Meridian Ventures was headquartered in a glass fortress downtown. Tinted windows, security badges, a biometric scanner at the entrance like something out of a heist film. She pulled up in her leased SUV, hair still perfect, makeup sharp, clothes chosen to communicate one thing. I still belong in his world. She did not. The lobby was sleek and cold. No receptionist desk, a digital check-in kiosk instead. She marched past it, clicking her heels across the marble, until a uniformed security guard stepped forward. Can I help you, ma'am? I'm here to see Martin Wells. Tell him his wife, ex-wife, is here. He didn't blink. Do you have an appointment? She laughed, sharp and bitter. I don't need an appointment. Just tell him. He doesn't take unlisted visits. The words hit harder than she expected. Not because of the policy, but because of the finality in the man's voice. Not can't. Doesn't. She pulled out her phone and showed him the press photo from the website. That's him. I was his wife. I have a right. You don't have clearance. Another security officer appeared. Not aggressive. Just backup. Like they'd seen people like her before. People chasing someone who no longer existed in the form they remembered. Please step outside, the first guard said. Or we'll have to contact building management. She stared at them. Her breath caught somewhere between fury and disbelief. But they didn't care who she had been. They only cared about the list. So she turned. She stormed out into the late afternoon heat, her reflection briefly catching in the glass doors. Her face red, jaw clenched, a smear of lipstick from the phone call she'd made earlier, begging her father to just reach out to someone in defense. That night, she searched again. Not for me, but for answers. She found the press release on a small business government contract site. Black text on white background, unglamorous but undeniable. Meridian Ventures awarded $18 million federal logistics contract. She clicked. Led by former defense logistics consultant Martin F. Wells, Meridian Ventures has secured a multi-year partnership with federal procurement agencies to optimize critical supply chain workflows across national defense projects. Wells, known for his classified contributions to pre-2018 military readiness initiatives, brings a unique blend of discretion, strategy, and execution to the operation. She read the paragraph 3 times. Defense logistics, classified contributions, military readiness? She blinked, trying to reconcile the man in the article with the one she used to yell at for overcooking rice. She had mocked my routines, teased me for watching supply chain documentaries, for reading procurement audits, for fun. She once told a room full of people at her birthday that I got off on spreadsheets. And the truth? I did, because I wasn't just building a quiet little business to escape her lifestyle. I was building a launchpad. One signature at a time, one file at a time. While she was chasing likes, I was chasing clearance. And now, she couldn't even get past the lobby. She scrolled down to the company's about page. No fluff, no buzzwords, just clean lines and short bios. Martin F. Wells, Director of Operations. No mention of me being married. No link to her. No shadow. She sat back in her chair, apartment dark except for the glow of the screen. Wine glass untouched. A cold ache in her stomach that wasn't hunger. Because for the first time it hit her, she didn't just lose me, she never really knew me. And now I existed in a world where she didn't belong, where her name didn't open doors, where the people who knew me now wouldn't care who she once was. She thought she'd filmed a clean ending to a boring man's story, but I was just getting to the part worth telling. The envelope was thick, soft, and quiet, like a letter from someone who knew exactly how to get past your guard. No return address, no markings. Just her name, handwritten in a way she almost didn't recognize. She opened it fast, expecting maybe legal documents or another bank notice she'd pretend not to read. Instead, a single USB drive, matte black, no label. Just the kind of anonymous little object that people overlook until it detonates everything. She stared at it for a minute, plugged it into her laptop. There was no folder structure, just a single file. You were busy laughing.mp4. She double-clicked it. It opened to grainy footage of her in the kitchen 3 years ago, maybe more. Hair longer, voice sharper. She was pouring wine with her friend Marcy, cackling so loud the mic clipped. Martin, she said, eyes rolling. That man would alphabetize the spice rack if I let him. He's like a placeholder, you know? Like a pre-release boyfriend. The beta version. They both howled. The screen flickered. New clip. She was in the living room, phone in hand, complaining to someone, her sister maybe. He set up this stupid document storage thing and labeled the folder's structure, she said, mimicking my voice. Like he thinks being boring is a virtue. I swear, if he died at his desk, I'd have to call IT before I called 911. The video jumped again. Now she was standing in the hallway, unaware of the camera mounted just above the coat rack, speaking to her father. He's just beige. He doesn't push anything, doesn't claim anything. I feel like I married the human version of a terms and conditions page. Her father nodded. We can fix that. The screen froze on her smirking face. Then transitioned, new video. No timestamp, just a slow, intimate shot of the home office. Me typing, then stopping, looking straight into the lens, and speaking. Everyone laughs at the quiet ones, until they're the only ones left standing. Black screen. End of file. She sat there, frozen, airtight in her chest, like someone had placed a weight directly on her lungs. The apartment around her suddenly felt hostile, like the walls knew more than she did. She ripped the USB out like it might burn her. But the damage was done. That footage wasn't for evidence, wasn't for revenge show, wasn't for court. It was curated, measured. It was a reminder. Every time she'd mocked me, dismissed me, looked through me instead of at me, I'd been recording. Not in a paranoid spy thriller way, in a documentation way, like a man keeping a log not just of what was said, but of what was never apologized for. She had assumed she was living out loud while I faded into the background. But the background had eyes. And now she couldn't trust any of her memories. Which ones were real? Which ones were rehearsed? How many times had she spoken cruelty into a room that recorded everything? She closed the laptop, sat still for a long time, and for the first time since I'd walked out that night, she didn't feel victorious. Didn't feel clever or modern or free. She felt studied, observed, filed, and left behind. He started skipping nights first. Said he had work, then a migraine, then a buddy's bachelor thing that got extended. No real fights, no big blowouts, just slow subtraction. The kind of exit cowards make when they don't want to carry any guilt with them on the way out. The man she used to call an upgrade was now her silence. He'd been the one clapping at the birthday ambush, remember? Red Solo cup in hand, laughing as I signed the divorce papers like it was a prank show finale. She used to rub his shoulder in public, call him lightness after the storm. And he played the part, cocky, casual, comforting. Until the bills started arriving with the wrong names and the wrong balances. He hadn't signed up for court notices, for eviction letters tucked in the mailbox next to influencer subscription boxes. He hadn't expected the Lexus lease to default, or the Chase credit line to go into review. You said it was settled, he snapped once, voice sharp behind the closed bathroom door. You made it sound like you were walking away clean. She had, or she thought she had, because she didn't just underestimate me. She overestimated how long the spotlight would stay on her. When he finally left, he didn't even take his cologne. Just a note on the coffee table in sharp, all-caps writing. Sorry. You should have told me what you gave up. It wasn't just a breakup. It was a mirror. A loud, unapologetic one. She called her dad. Twice. Then texted. He didn't respond until the next morning. His reply, you should have handled it better. No warmth. No lecture. No money. Just the judgment of a man who thought he was handing his daughter a weapon on my birthday, and ended up handing her a trap with no exit. The father who once told people, he's nothing without us, now wouldn't return her calls when the repo notice came for the car that wasn't in her name. When the apartment lease officially expired and the deposit was withheld for unpaid maintenance and late fees, she asked him to co-sign a new place. He sent back one word. No. She went to brunch alone that week. Sat there scrolling through old photos, tapping on images where her smile was wide and my eyes were dull. She didn't post any of them, because even her fallback identity, the one where she was brave and rising and stepping into her next chapter, was unraveling. The man she'd used to exit one life didn't want to live in the wreckage of the next. And the people she thought would support her through the reinvention had moved on to other things. New gossip, new drama, younger replacements. That night, she opened her inbox and saw 3 final overdue notices. Credit card, utilities, and legal fees. No more backup plans. No more champagne captions. Just debt. And silence. And the creeping, undeniable suspicion that the only person who ever understood her capacity to burn everything down was the one man she never bothered to understand. It came mid-morning, while she was reapplying makeup she wasn't planning to wear anywhere. No caller ID. Just the kind of number that looks like silence before it even rings. She answered instinctively, hoping, what exactly? That it was someone with answers? A call back from one of the 100 ignored job applications she'd started sending in desperation? But it was just my voice. Not bitter. Not vengeful. Just calm. You always said I was forgettable, I said. But forgetting me was your biggest mistake. Click. No goodbye. No callback. No closure. Just a dial tone that felt colder than any insult I could have ever thrown at her face. She stood there frozen, the phone still pressed to her ear long after the line died. Her pulse skidded out beneath her ribs. She redialed, blocked. Searched the number, untraceable. It wasn't even spoofed from a service. It had been routed through something smarter, something cleaner. Something she didn't understand. Which, ironically, was the theme of her entire year. That afternoon, Brennan called. She almost didn't answer. The last time he'd spoken to her, it had ended with her yelling through tears and him reminding her, calmly, that signatures are not reversible just because you regret them. But now his tone was different. Not gentle, cautious. We received something interesting today, he said. A notice of change from the registrar's office. It pertains to a foundation. What foundation? The Atlas Continuity Trust, he said. Started 4 years ago. Only just went public due to a milestone trigger clause. Funding hit 7 figures. She had no idea what that meant. Then he continued, your name's on the original donor roster. There was a pause. That has to be a mistake, she said, laughing nervously. It's your legal signature. I've already checked the timestamp. It was part of a business-related filing. Back when your husband asked you to sign those tax simplification documents. You were listed as a co-contributor to a non-profit arm under his original LLC. She gripped the edge of the table. And what exactly does this foundation do? It funds logistics training and infrastructure consulting for under-resourced government programs. They're calling it the most effective closed-loop initiative for decentralized crisis management since the early 2000s. She blinked. In English, it's the thing he always talked about, the boring thing you joked about when he stayed up late reading procurement memos. He turned it into a real platform. And you? He trailed off, then cleared his throat. You helped fund it. Legally. With equity. Can I pull the donation? She asked, voice rising. No, Brennan said flatly. That ship sailed years ago. It's in the Foundation's public filing now. You're listed as an original backer. So now I'm tied to his stupid nerd project? He hesitated again. No, you're not tied to it. He's already amended the documents. Your name remains on the first filing. But all future association has been wiped. She didn't understand. Then it clicked. She hadn't just helped fund the thing she mocked. She'd made herself obsolete in it. Publicly irrelevant. Historically insignificant. He'd used her name to get it off the ground, then built the real empire behind a curtain she never once bothered to peek behind. It wasn't petty. It was precise. Because in the eyes of the world, she was now a footnote in a legacy she never believed in. Not the founder. Not the partner. Just a silent name on an early document. Forgotten until the moment it reappeared to haunt her. She thought she'd stripped him down. Instead, she'd helped stitch the suit he wore now. The empire he walked into without her. The network she didn't even know she was funding. And that voicemail? It wasn't a threat. It was a eulogy. It came folded in half, cream paper with a single crease. Hand-delivered by a courier who didn't wait for a tip or a signature. No envelope. No stamp. Just left tucked between the door handle and the peeling paint of her apartment. Her temporary apartment, 2 neighborhoods removed from the luxury condo she once called a stepping stone. She almost didn't see it at first. Stepped right past it, keys in hand, arms full of grocery bags she'd once considered beneath her. But something about it caught her eye. A familiarity in the way the fold was crisp, the paper weighted, deliberate. She opened it standing in the doorway. Just one line, centered, ink dark and even. Still laughing. That was it. No date, no name, no logo, no flourish, just a question. And suddenly the hallway shrank around her. The light overhead felt clinical, like the kind in elevators or hospitals. Cold, unflattering, honest. She stepped inside, slowly, and sat down at the table she bought off Craigslist. The card stayed in her hand as she stared at the words like they might rearrange themselves into something less final. But they didn't, because the punchline had never been the birthday party. It wasn't the solo cups or the prank video or the way she smiled for the camera while serving divorce papers like sheet cake. It wasn't the applause or the smugness or the smug replacement who vanished faster than he arrived. It was the fact that he'd left to finish becoming. And she'd mistaken it for surrender. She used to laugh at how seriously he took things. His routines. His language. His insistence on precision. God, lighten up, she'd said once. You act like life's a ledger. It was. And now she was in the red, staring at a single sentence worth more than anything she had left in her name. She sat there for hours. The groceries sweated on the linoleum. A jar of pasta sauce rolled onto its side and leaked onto the floor. She didn't notice, because there were no clues to follow, no trail to trace. He hadn't sent it to provoke her or reel her in. He'd sent it because he knew it was the last page. The full stop, the quiet click at the end of a chapter no one was ever going to write again. She had spent months trying to find him, trying to understand how the man she dismissed for so long became someone she couldn't even reach. And now she knew. She never saw him. Not once. Not the quiet calculation. Not the layering of moves. Not the way he absorbed humiliation like a sponge and converted it into fuel. She thought she was outgrowing him. But he wasn't growing with her. He was growing away from her. So when she finally placed the card on the table and stepped back, it wasn't with anger. It was with the kind of hollow clarity that comes when you realize the most important person in your life walked away from your story and made sure they were untraceable in the sequel. There were no more letters. No more voicemails. No more jokes. Just silence. And the ghost of a man who wasn't punishing her. He was finished.